Hey, how's it going, everybody? Another RLCS week in the books. RLCS 2024 officially gotten to a start, and we are through North America. Pretty much things go as expected. Not too crazy, I would say, overall, as we jump over to the other page. As a reminder, if you guys haven't checked out my predictions and my tier list, and the reason why I guess I wasn't too surprised is because things went as expected, for me at least initially. While yes, I give myself a buffer of like a tier up and a tier down, a lot of the concerns I had and a lot of the things I thought were going to go right ended up doing so. We were 7 of 8 on our top 8 predictions, with TSM getting replaced by Pirates on a Boat, which turns out Achieves is just the GOAT, and we should have known that. That's on me. I apologize formally to Achieves. And then on the other side, Shopify. Tough, but I told Swiss would probably benefit them, and then eventually they make it on the other way out. So I think overall some pretty exciting results. There is a lot of gameplay still left to be had, so while initial matches went as I basically expected, I am also still on the other side that things are going to be completely different probably next week, and it's going to still be chaotic, and we may see some upsets, because quite honestly we didn't see too many in NA, in my opinion. Your top 8: M80, G2, Dignitas, Gen G, Space Station, Pirates on a Boat, Luminosity, and Shopify. The only one I had differently was not Pirates on a Boat. I had TSM. Big things to talk about. Number 1, G2 went really good. A lot of game 5s. To be expected. When you have a team that is trying to find their footing and trying to put together a play style and stuff, sometimes the whole like you just got to believe thing takes a little bit to get going, especially when it's your first time against real competition. That applies to all these rosters. Any team that is coming in with a certain play style or a certain ideology, it takes a bit to find your footing. But as I have harped about a team like LG continuously, good teams find a way to win. So G2, close series. Gibbs ended up reaching out to all the teams and all the players and asked them to rank the matchups of where NA pros thought they should be. This is what the teams are rating where they should place. Gen G and G2 top. Space Station very heavily rated, but a massive drop off of over 2 points average between. So there is definitely a hierarchy or a tier, which is very similar to the stuff that I predicted. A lot of people rating OG very high, which we'll talk about them later, don't worry. Dig, Rebellion, M80, and Luminosity. So your top 8 is pretty much the same as what most people are thinking. Some pretty exciting results here. And that's what the NA pros had to say about each other based on how scrim results are going and stuff leading in. So OG has been a team that is very well respected and is a major contender by the perspective of players. But stuff happens. Things change in competition. So overall, I think you're seeing a hierarchy. Dignitas is getting the ratings that well deserved after the offseason results. Good to say that's showing in scrims as well. So your top 8, I think M80 going perfect, going 3-0, I think for a lot of people is pretty exciting. Beating Gen G was the big surprise for me. Still hesitant about M80 going in, and we memed the predictions a little bit just for fun because it essentially came down to EU greater than NA memes. But Gen G losing to them was actually like, okay, that is something notable, which when we get into the quarterfinals, it changes some things up. Dignitas, glad to see them go well. I think some pretty notable matches for them to win over LG, TSM, and OG. Perfect sweeps. That's a statement piece. Gen G's only loss came to that M80 team. Otherwise, they looked pretty dang good. Space Station as well, looking clean. Shopify, good to see them put up a pretty good fight. Was winnable for Shopify, but losing to G2. And then outside of that, I think very commendable. Pirates on a Boat goes down 0-2 in series and then wins 3 in a row against OG, TSM, and Whippersnappers, who did not look bad by any means. So Pirates on a Boat, resiliency. Same thing with Luminosity, which is exactly what we did in our predictions. I expected Luminosity to kind of be like this, but end on the upward trend because that's just the kind of team it looks like they are. I think they're going to be frustrating to play against. I think they're always going to take you down to the wire. You can see them. The difference, though, is they are playing teams that I consider them above, and they're sweeping. The Muffin Men series going 3-2 is crazy to me. I'm surprised by that one. But taking G2 to 5 is a good thing. Dignitas just had their number and has had their number for a while. I think quarterfinals may be a different story in best of 7. We'll see how it goes. As for Shopify, I talked about how I think Shopify, TSM, and Luminosity all really benefit, I think, from Swiss. Shopify showcasing that within every other. But like, they 3-0 dig. They lose to Gen G. They go to 5. They go to 5. They go to 5. Like, it is a roller coaster for that Shopify team, even though I still consider them a top 4 in North America. On the antithesis to that, I casted the deleted XD matches. Every game went to game 5. It is pain. It is like V1 never left my veins. These are all extremely winnable. The guys are up with leads and then they throw apart. And it's just, I can't escape it. I don't know what it is. But you're talking they win a couple of these and it's a very different storyline. But at the end of the day, you got to win when it matters most. And credit to the other teams on doing so. Energy very close to qualifying as well. Again, they're going toe-to-toe against some of these teams that are also finding them in the 2-2 series. So pretty exciting stuff with that. But the biggest surprise for everybody, OG, even by the pros standards saying they're a major team, take one game. They take one game off of Gen G and lose everything else. That is crazy. And a lot of people are dogging on them, this, that, and the other. I talked about in my previous video some of the concerns I have, but OG, by all means, I expect them to bounce back. I do not see this being a consistent thing. I think it is a kick in the pants of like, hey, like, we got to wake up. We got to figure some stuff out. And I fully expect them to do that. I do not expect them to have to battle through lowers and all that kind of stuff all the time. So this next regional, I think, is going to be very telling. If you guys don't remember, OG lost to TSM. They became 15th seed versus 2nd seed. Who knows what would have happened if they would have been playing those other teams? Because then their first match would have been against... who did TSM play first? It would have been against Deleted, which I think OG wins that series. Different storyline. So a lot of differences, I think, in that regard. Also, Panda, how you doing, sir? Good job this weekend. We then get into the top 8. Shopify, I talked about being a top 4 team. They reward me on that. This, I think, could have obviously gone either way. I personally believe that foundational play, especially when you get into the top tier, is very important. And I've been harping about Shopify and their positional play so much lately. I've been talking about the way they set up in the midfield. They've got 2 in position. They've got 1 pushing forward. Like, they do it right. And when it comes to pressure being on the line, this is where the difference comes into play. Apparently, whatever it is about Joria's, and maybe Violent Panda can speak to it, but Joria's like has this curse about him in the quarterfinals. I don't know what it is. They go perfect and then they fall apart. And like, the match is close. Yeah, there's 2 OTs and a couple 1-goal games, but other than that, it's pretty one way or the other. So I don't know. It's crazy to see, but Shopify had the number. They punched into top 4. I'm very happy for that Shopify roster being rewarded that way. Gen G and Space Station is supposed to be, based upon ratings, like a top 3, top 4 team based upon how people are weighting them. But I do think, yes, there is definitely a tier ahead between Gen G and G2 and the rest. Outside of that, G2 and Luminosity, I think Luminosity, if they drop down to lowers, you may have another close match with Dignitas, maybe a chance to push through. But G2 just built different. As soon as you saw this match and then you get to see them the next day, you're like, yeah, this is over. There is something about having an eye test of looking at teams and being like, yep, they've got it. Greg of Luminosity tweeted it out perfectly about kind of the experience of playing what G2 is trying to build right now. And it's supported as well by Sathu, their coach. He said, quote, G2 makes you look permanently naked. The pressure you have to deal with at all times is unbearable and requires near perfect team play to escape. Sathu, in his own moments, also says, hey, boys executed on the vision. About a month of pure focus practice and the implementation of a system we believe is what led up to the result, and I can't appreciate their efforts. I'm proud. And I agree. You know, you're trying to build, and it's something that I think G2 has done a really good job since the World Championship back in Germany last year, which is you have a team that buys into a system, into a formula, and what that does when it comes to being on the same page, having an understanding of who is trying to do what, I think it really showed in their playstyle. G2 is threatening. And it's not that in the grand finals, kind of jumping ahead between this series, and we'll get into it, but G2 had an answer for everything, and I'll explain that in a bit. The Dignitas Pirates on a Boat series, I think, was probably one of the best. I think it opened the day, and you're talking every single game was a 1-goal game, and there was 4 overtimes. That's insane. I am high stocks on Pirates on a Boat. Shoutouts to the Chiefs and the boys. I think they did phenomenal. Dignitas, again, is a heavily rated team. People are considering them in contention to go to a top 4 and get to the major. Rightfully so, based on how they've been performing. I believe in Dig. I think they look great. I think it's one of my favorite teams, if I'm being honest. It's hard not to like that roster, but I think Dignitas is going to struggle against some teams that can play at a faster pace. I think the disruption play style and what they have is great, but when they go up against teams that can match it both mechanically and pace wise, G2s, Gen Gs, potentially Shopify, they may struggle. And you saw that. You saw them struggle against, I think, Shopify right out of the gate, right? Yeah. Like, good series, close series, 1-goal games, but I think when push comes to shove, that individual effort may be the difference, and I'm going to go with the more mechanical team. So I think, again, it's a good series. It's a lot closer than it looks. 1-goal game, 1-goal game, 2-goal game, 1-goal game. Like, it could definitely go the other way. So stuff to keep in mind. They're still staying competitive against a team that literally, when we take a look at the other side, Genji 4-0 Shopify, close series as well. Lots of OTs, 1-goal games. Don't let the 4-0s and the 4-1s tell you otherwise. But this one was one-sided. That 2-goal game was a 0-second goal. Doesn't count. Exactly. It's a garbage time goal, right? Yeah, I think when we talk about scorelines, game differentials, and stuff like that, the 4-0 from G2 definitely tells the story. And people can say otherwise, but like, G2 was relentless. They were suffocating to a different degree. Every single time they touched the ball, it was a threat. Like, one you had to be aware of. And if you happen to make a save, the next person who gets the ball is going to hit another flip reset, something ridiculous, and you're going to have to last minute, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of people are talking about how, hey, Jack did this, or Nolly did, or not Nolly, Jack did this, or Chronic did this, or First Killer did this. I think the only thing you can point out for a flaw for Gen G is that First Killer didn't play on the Fennec. Outside of jokes and stuff like that, the reason why Gen G looked so behind is because of what G2 was doing. Denying boost, playing aggressively, in their face, zero hesitation, beating them to the ball. And like, trying to adjust to that is not easy, because Gen G's adjustment to that is they have to basically not challenge first, get into a position to make a play on the second touch. But when you don't have any boost, or when you're standing still, you're getting like, it is not it. So G2, credit where it is due. G2 looks incredible. They look so good. Can they recreate what they just did? Is that a peak, or is that their standard? We had the same question about World Championship team vitality. When they came in with Zen, Zen played patient. He wasn't selfish. He set up his teammates for success. Can they recreate that? Is that suffocating style of offense going to be the answer? Turns out they could, and they won everything as soon as he came in. 3 events in a row and the World Championship. So G2's got to live up to that as well. This team has so much talent. There is no excuses for them not to be the best, and they're starting it off the right way. So I don't know. I'm very interested to see what G2 ends up happening in the future. I think the crazy thing, though, is if you guys have not been paying attention to the signups with the prize pool distribution, North America has 816 teams already signed up for the second qualifier. They close in about 4 or 5 hours. So a lot of teams, even more in Europe. It's pretty cutthroat out there. So very interested to see on how the seeding adjustments happen now that they have results from this season put into place. And here's to see how things are going to play out, because I expect entirely different results. But as of right now, I think you should expect some of those same names in the top 8, and then maybe sprinkle in some differences there. But that's what we got for the recap. Crazy stuff. I think overall, the first week, really good competition. I think people are excited to have RLCS back. And we had Europe going on for qualifiers at the same time with some pretty fun results as well. So we'll recap those later in the week. If you guys want to make sure you don't miss out on that and all the other stuff, make sure you guys hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.